Okay, so we'll get going and say good morning officially to all of you. I'm absolutely delighted to see all of you, as I always am every Monday morning. We were just talking about it a little bit, but it really does help me enormously when I get up on a Monday morning to know that at 11 o'clock I'm going to come into this call and meet a huge number of people remotely, and of course chat to Sally. So it's a huge pleasure for me, and I hope it does brighten your prospect for Mondays as well. It was Valentine's Day yesterday, and I had this really weird experience. So I haven't had a Valentine for a very, very long time, as a lot of you know. And I opened my door to actually go. I was going around to my daughter's house, with whom I'm in a bubble, to have a roast. And I opened the door at 6 o'clock, and there was a box of flowers on the doorstep. It's like, woo, what's going on? Secret admirer, perhaps, in the neighbourhood. Anyway, I brought the box in and opened it up, and it said, "Happy 50th birthday, Anita. Love from the team." So it clearly wasn't meant for me.
Oh.
Yeah, so poor Anita. I don't know who she is. I don't know any, I know a few of my neighbours, but I know that none of them is called Anita. And I just thought, well, she's missed out on flowers. I've had a momentary thought of somebody has sent me flowers. They're from Marks and Spencer's. I phoned them this morning to tell them that they've misdelivered it. The address was correct. And I got absolutely nowhere. And I mean, they can't do anything. So I've done my best. And on that note, I hope you all had a really nice Valentine's Day, and maybe you did get flowers from your Valentine and they were lovely, and you enjoyed yourself. So hopefully, let's talk today about let's just talk about what we're going to do today. Sally and I decided that we'd think about those occasions at the moment where makeup is helpful to you, and those occasions in the future where makeup is essential and really makes a huge difference. So at the moment, we're talking about Zoom calls, and we're talking about the fact that you're often on some kind of screen. And there is a way to ensure that you look your very best when you're doing that. So we want to give you as many hints and tips as we can. And that also includes photographs. So if you're taking selfies and posting them on Facebook, or you're part of Super Troopers and you're putting images of yourself out there, there is a way to make sure that you look your very best in those pictures. And I just say we want to give you as many hints and tips as we can. And then when we do eventually get out of lockdown, maybe you've got a longed for delayed special occasion that you're going to be attending. That might be a wedding, it might be a special birthday party, or it just might be a nice celebration with some friends. But the thing is that on those occasions, you often want to sort of ramp up the glamour a little bit and make sure that you do look really special. So Sally's going to give you as many sort of tricks of the trade that she knows in order to have the effect of really looking your very best. And then she's going to pass back to me, and I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the technical aspects of it. So the ways that I control the environment when I'm on these calls, and also the lighting and so on and so forth. So over to Sally, who, as I said, is going to talk you through the makeup aspect of this, the use of makeup in order to look your very best on those occasions when you want to look your very best. So over to you, Sally.
Thank you, Tricia. Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. So yes, I think there's a lot to this. I'm here today. I have to say what I've got on already. I have put my primers on. We'll talk about those again. Essential, absolutely essential for looking good for a long time and in photos. And I have put my base on, my foundation. I haven't yet put any concealer on. I'm going to talk a little bit about concealer, because that's quite important for photos, for Zoom, etc. And I haven't, as you can see, I'm looking quite ghostly because I look very sort of obviously I look two-dimensional because I'm on a screen, but I haven't put any kind of colour into my face in terms of bronzer, contouring, blusher. I put a tiny bit of lipstick on, and I've nearly finished my eyes. I want to just do one more thing to my eyes. I've done my eyebrows. So the most important thing, I think, for a special occasion and for generally looking good in photographs is actually your skin. And we're going to do quite a bit more, I think, next week probably on skincare. But certainly making sure your skin looks good for a really important occasion starts not the night before. I would suggest it sort of starts about a month before at least to get your skin in really good condition. A lot of things like not having sort of dryness around the nose and not having dry lips. Lips are really important for lipstick. And I would suggest do have a good look at your lips and make sure they're not looking dry and flaky, because you can even make yourself a really simple lip exfoliant with a tablespoon of coconut oil, a couple of teaspoons of brown sugar and a teaspoon of honey. Mix them together and just put them on your lips, and for about a minute massage them in and rinse off, and it's amazing how much better your lips will look the next day when you apply lipstick. So that's really important, exfoliating and moisturizing. So a good makeup artist will always use moisturizer before going into makeup, but leaving some time. We talked about that before. Don't slap your moisturizer on and then straight away put your primer and your foundation on. Likewise, giving yourself enough time to do your makeup is really important. You don't want to be in a hot shower thinking, goodness me, I've got everybody coming to my birthday lunch and I've got to get down in the kitchen, so I've got 10 minutes to slap my makeup on. Oh my goodness, stress. We've all probably been there. Really try and give yourself time and practice your makeup for a special occasion or for a photograph. That's really important too. Don't just think I can just wing it. Practice definitely makes perfect. So first thing, we talked about moisturizer. Just one thing I would say for photographs, what you don't want to use is, there are two different types of sunscreen, and you ideally don't want to put on a sunscreen that is it's a physical sunscreen or a mineral sunscreen that's got zinc oxide or titanium dioxide in it, because that creates flashback. It can create, if you're having flash photography, it can make you look quite sort of white and ghostly. So that's quite important that you use a moisturizer that doesn't have that. Chemical sunscreens don't have that in, but some physical ones do, mineral ones do. Okay, primers. Primers are absolutely essential for making your skin look good and your makeup lasting. If you're going to be photographed, you might get a little bit hot and bothered. If you're going to be out all day, or if it's a wedding, or if it's a birthday celebration, you definitely want your makeup to last and not be worrying about it looking patchy. So I definitely would recommend my Smoother Silk, Like Silk primer, Magic Knickers for the face, as I call that one. And when you put your foundation on, a lot of ladies think, I'm having my photograph taken. They either go one way or the other. They don't like themselves in foundation. So basically, they don't wear it because they think it's going to look like a mask. Or they go the other way and think, I've got to cover everything up and wear lots more foundation because I'm going to be photographed or on Zoom. That doesn't work either. You want a happy medium. So you want your foundation to look natural, so it looks like you, but to make you look like it's a canvas on which you're going to create the picture. And you want that canvas to really look good and smooth. So really take your time putting your foundation on carefully and blending it and buffing it with the foundation brush. Really buff well, and then use your fingers just to smooth in. You can do a couple of thin layers and sort of build up. Don't put loads on to start with and then panic and try and get it off, because it will look cakey. You don't want to look cakey. So that sort of foundation, really take your time getting that right. And that can't happen if you've just got 10 minutes after getting out of the shower. So really give yourself time. So I tend to do concealer after foundation. The one thing you would do before foundation is actually to put on, if you've got redness, we talked about that in another week, if you want to cover your redness with the colour correctors, the green, you would then put that on before foundation. You wouldn't want green on top of foundation. So if you know that you are going to go very red, it's much better to actually use the colour correctors than to just pile on concealer. Particularly in photographs, you don't want this massive, really heavy concealer. So if you're going to use a colour corrector, such as the peach for really dark circles, that's really good to do. Then your foundation. Then this is the stage when I would put concealer on. So I haven't got any concealer on, so I have got a little bit of darkness under my eyes. So I'm going to just put some concealer around my eyes. Now with Zoom, it's quite interesting. You can actually get away with Zoom, not necessarily in daytime photographs, but on Zoom, if you've got dark circles, you can get away with a slightly lighter concealer than you might need in the daytime. It just works. So if you are normally a number 2 concealer and you still look really, really dark on Zoom, you might even want to get a number 1 as well, the lighter one. And you can even then mix them together if you need to. So I'm stippling it on with the concealer brush and then just basically tapping it in. You do need to kind of create quite a lot of lightness, but you don't want to look panda-eyed. You don't want really light eyes, but you do need to create lightness. And this bit here, we talked about it before, in the sort of inner bit between your eye and your nose, it's often quite bluey. And it's amazing how putting just a little bit of concealer there can make you already look much more awake. And it's quite a nice trick in photographs. I sometimes even put just a tiny bit of concealer, just a tiny bit, just under, in a line under my brow. I'm going to put highlighter on later, but to get a really sharp line, a tiny bit just under the brow looks good. A lot of ladies have sort of broken capillaries around the nose area. I do. And it's also just a little bit darker and often a bit red around there. If it's really red, use the green before the foundation, but otherwise the concealer is lovely. And I would not, for that one, I'm going for number 2, which is matching my foundation. If, horror of horrors, you get a spot, a really nasty spot on the day of your big day, say it's a wedding, what you don't want to do with a light concealer is take it and put it all over the spot and go, oh gosh, I need a bit more, and then sort of blend it out. With a spot, you need to be really precise, and I would suggest you actually use a smaller brush. This is, I think, brush 5, the lip brush, and just literally, I usually do have a spot, but just pinpoint it onto the spot, just in the center, and then just with your finger, press it out. You don't want to spread it out, and you don't want to cake it up, because that will also show. If you put a light concealer on a spot and cake it up on photos, that will look worse. So with real small things, use a smaller brush. So this is, I call this Tipp-Ex for the face. This was Magic Knickers for the face, but this is my Tipp-Ex for the face. So what I'm also going to do is, I've got just a little bit of pigmentation here and just here. So anywhere that you need extra help, it sounds really fiddly, but actually for the photo effect, this is going to make a big difference. Just getting rid of any sun pigmentation, or I love freckles. I don't want to get rid of freckles. If you've got freckles, let them shine through, but it's sort of bigger brown spots, age spots, sunspots that you might want to just use a concealer. Rather than piling on foundation, just go in with a concealer and you'll just get rid of it. It's amazing how it just goes. So I could spend a bit longer, but I won't. That's the general gist of, hopefully it looks a little bit brighter. So, contouring. I feel like I need some shape to my face now. Contouring became massive with the Kardashians and all the young girls and their great big stripes of contour. I'm not talking about that because I think that can look ridiculous. However, for photographs and on camera, if you are going on Zoom, you've probably all been on Zoom with ladies where everyone just looks very sort of grey and sallow and flat. And actually on camera, you do need to create some definition. And you can do that by using contour. Now, our bronzer is actually brilliant as a contour powder. You can see, as I say, I use this a lot. It doesn't come out this colour, it's matte. What you don't want to do is to put a shiny, sort of a iridescent bronzer all on, because that will just look really wrong. And we'll talk about shine in a moment. But what you're doing with contouring is you're just sharpening up the shaping of your face. So if you remember, I said with makeup that dark colours push back and light colours pull forward. That's what you're doing with contouring. So what you can do is you can actually push back to create, you sort of see underneath the cheekbones by making a little bit. I'm not actually going to use a blusher brush for this because I don't want it to be too big, but just a tiny bit. You can actually suck in and just do it just underneath the cheekbones. This is not putting bronzer on your cheekbones. This is a slightly different thing I'm doing, just to create a sort of hollow effect. Not too much. And this doesn't come out orange or scary, so don't panic. You're not going to look as though you've been tangoed with this one. The other thing you can do is to put it just into your temples, just to create a bit of a dip there. If you've got a fringe, not got a fringe, you can put it just on the top of your forehead. I also quite like, when I'm doing ladies, just to put a tiny bit on my jawline. Now, not too much, but a little bit on your jawline pushes the jawline back because it's dark. So you're creating a sort of an effect of sharpness. You're starting to create a few angles without it looking scary, just a few angles. As I've talked before, if I've got a reasonably long nose, I like to put a tiny, tiny bit just on the bottom of my nose to push my nose back. You might not have that problem, but that's what I do. So just there. And the other thing I do is just to put a little bit, as I've said before, on my neck. One thing I didn't mention is if you're going to go to a wedding and you're going to be wearing a hat, or you're going to have your hair up for a special occasion, when you put your foundation on, make sure that you actually bring the foundation to your ears. Sometimes ladies stop their foundation here and then they put their hair up and there's a difference in colour between the sort of this area. So if you know you're going to have your hair up, practice doing your makeup actually with your hair up or with your hat on at the end to make sure that you haven't got any little gaps. So that's the contour. What I really think is important is to use some blusher. For me, blusher is a moment where my face starts to come alive and starts to look a little bit less zombie-like as I am at the moment. So I'm using the Peach Cream blusher. Now I'm going to use this, I'm going to put it on with my finger. I'm just going to, you can smile. So just sort of above and on the cheekbone. And with makeup for photography, you actually can get away with a little bit more than you would in day to day. So don't be frightened to actually apply a little bit more blusher for a photo, because you do need, obviously it's got to be the right tone of blusher. You don't want bright pink if you are warm toned, and you don't want really orangey, sort of really coral colour if you're very cool toned. It needs to be the right tone for you, which we talked about before, but actually putting it on, bringing it up. If you've got a very, very narrow face, you might want to make your blusher slightly more horizontal. If you've got a very round face, you might want to make your blusher look a tiny bit more vertical, but otherwise I'm sort of doing it in a sort of like a teardrop shape. And I'm then going to just use my blusher brush just to blend it in. Now, because I am warm toned, I've done this before, what I sometimes do is also put a little bit of bronzer. I'm now using it more as a bronzer rather than a contouring powder, but I then put a tiny bit of bronzer actually over my blusher. I wouldn't do this if I was cool toned. Tricia doesn't do this, but I quite like to do this because I'm warm toned. So I started hopefully to look a little bit more as though I'm not so flat. Zoom can make you actually look a little bit sallow and grey, as can just flash photography, and depending on the light, can wash you out. So that's why you need to introduce some colour. So don't be frightened of blusher. It just, I think it makes you look much more alive and much more sort of more healthy and natural. So eyes, talking about eyes, it's really important to keep your brows looking good for photos. Don't forget, your brows frame the face. So we talked about brows in that first video. If you haven't ever had your brows shaped, I would suggest once we can get out of lockdown, you need to, if you've got a special occasion, then do get them shaped professionally, and then it's much easier to use the bring back brow to keep them looking good. So I have done my makeup. With eye makeup for photographs, you don't want to go really, really shimmery. Likewise for your face, you don't want to look like a disco ball. However, if you're going to be photographed, that's particularly if you're going to be photographed in daytime. If you know your photos are going to be taken at sunset, when the sun is setting and it's slightly warmer, hazier colours, that's the best time to be wearing slightly more shimmery colours. That can have a really nice effect in photos. But in harsh daylight, really strong shimmer can again create that sort of flashback effect, and you can look just too shiny. However, with eyes, I think it's important to get enough definition. If you're somebody that never has ever worn eyeliner, it does make a difference for photos to use. We can just, as we did in the last two videos, using eyeliner. All I did was use today I've actually got midnight blue. I've got rose gold. I've got my eye primer on. Eye primer, essential to keep your eye makeup on. I've got rose gold all over. I've then actually gone for pewter, which is a cool colour, but I really like it. So I've gone for pewter a little bit in my socket line. And then I've gone for midnight blue as my eyeliner today, just to ring the changes. I've got sort of bluey grey eyes. So I've gone for midnight blue along the top of my lashes, as close to my lashes as I can, and just a little bit underneath. And I think that really does make a difference in photographs. If you have got a little bit of eyeliner on, and even if you're wearing glasses, we will do glasses at some point, but glasses, really good to have eyeliner, because that also will just enhance your eyes behind the glasses frames. Mascara, and using your eyelash curlers like I showed you last week will also open your eyes up. A lot of ladies, when they're having their photos taken, will open their eyes because they're told to open their eyes. But if you stand there and have your photo taken with your eyes open, you look a little bit like a deer in headlights. So you don't want to sort of stand there with your eyes wide open, but obviously slightly open and thinking of somebody lovely. I think Tricia's going to talk about the technical side of how to stand and that kind of thing. But I've got some tips on that too if you need that. But by putting eyeliner on, it will naturally open your eyes. You don't want your makeup to be too dark around the eyes for photographs. I would avoid black eyeliner. I never really wear black eyeliner, but I know some ladies think, I'm going to have my photo taken, I need to stick on some black eyeliner. That's probably not going to do you any favours. It will close your eyes up. If you want an eyeliner that's that sort of colour, go for the charcoal eye shade and just use that underneath the eye. So I'm also going to just show you, last week we did a little bit on lid colour, but actually, even though lid colour is a little bit shimmery, it's quite nice just to pop a little, I'm not putting it all over like I did last time, but I'm just putting it just in the centre of my eye. And again, it will pop your eye forward, just so you've got a little bit of light in the centre. And then I would probably usually do this before my eyeliner and mascara, but I've already done those. So you can do it last thing. But I've just popped that on. Hopefully you can see that's just sort of slightly brighten the eyes. You can also put it in the inner V here, but you can also use the brightener, that instant bright highlight there. There's various things you can do. Some ladies use, for a special occasion, use eye drops. You can buy eye drops, you can buy all sorts of eye drops. You can buy eye drops that claim to make your eye your whites of your eyes whiter. There's one called Lumify, which you could just use for very special occasions. Optrex do them, that actually will kind of contract the blood. If you are quite sort of red in your eyes, for a special occasion, you could do that if you wanted to. Drinking lots of water and looking after your eyes, you know, you shouldn't hopefully have to do that, but that might help for a special photograph. So, highlighter. This is what I call my magic pen. So we've had magic knickers. This is my magic pen. I love this product. Instant Bright Highlight. This will help, just like the blusher and the contour gave you that sort of pushing back and colour, this will bring forward and give you just a little bit of luminescence without looking iridescent. We don't want to look scarily, dazzly, shiny. And that's what's so brilliant about this product. It just makes you look dewy. And so where I'm going to put this, first of all, is under my eyebrows in a half moon shape to pull forward my brow. And I'm just using my finger just to create a little bit more shape in my eyes. You can, as I said earlier, put a little bit just here if you haven't got anything else you haven't done anything else, just to create a little bit of light. You don't want it to look too light, but a little bit of light there. The other place I put it is on my cheekbones, on the top of my cheekbones. So you can't really go wrong with this because it's not a scary product. Some of the younger girls you'll see on these makeup tutorials put really, really bright light, shimmery highlighters around this area. And this isn't like that. It's a very soft version for the more mature skin. I love it. So you basically put it here. I actually think you can bring it up in a little bit of a C. That's quite a nice way to do it. But definitely on this area, you can just see where I've put it, and then just blend it in. You don't want to look as though you've got dots of colour. A little bit of luminescence, which makes you look glowy, dewy, fresh, natural, and it really looks good on photographs. So a little bit there. I put sometimes a bit more just above. You just have to click it. When you first get it, you have to click it lots of times to get it to work, then it suddenly comes out. So sometimes I put just a bit above my brows. The other thing I do is, I've got really deep frown lines there. I sometimes actually put a little bit into my frown lines. And then I blend it. And it just, because it's light brings forward, so it's sort of just softening the frown lines. Much better for you than Botox. And it's just a way, if you're trying to make a child look old for a school play, you would put dark lines to create sort of lines. So I'm doing the reverse. I'm putting light into my lines, which will then pull them forward and soften them. A little trick to slim the nose, if you want to sort of make your nose look slimmer, is to put a line of highlighter down the center of your nose. Don't leave it like that. You need to just blend it slightly. You don't want to look as though you've got a stripe down your nose, but that also is quite a nice effect. And the other place you can put it is on your Cupid's bow. So just literally really nice effect for photographs, to put a little bit of light just on your Cupid's bow, which brings your lips sort of forward slightly. So this for me is absolutely an essential item. It's really quick and easy to use, but it makes such a difference. It's subtle, but it really works in photographs. It works on Zoom and it works in real life. You won't look scarily shiny with it. So talking of shine, if you are going to keep your makeup on all day and you don't want it to move, powder is definitely your friend. A loose translucent powder or our pressed powder is brilliant because it's very, very fine. We talked about this the other week, but a powder will set your makeup in place. If you know you're going to get hot, you know you're going to get quite shiny, it's really essential to use powder. If you have concealed something, say you had that zit that I talked to you about, what you can do is to just, with your, this is my blender brush, you can actually just go over any area that you have concealed in a very small area, and just with a powder brush, it will just sort of roll it on. I sometimes, my ladies talk about press and roll, sometimes take a cotton wool ball, take a little bit of that and press and roll with powder. That's what you can do. You see feel like I'm on TV, and then take my big powder brush and dust off the excess. You tend to get shiny more on the T-zone. I wouldn't put lots of powder on the cheek area, but particularly the T-zone will just keep everything looking good for longer. Really important for photographs not to look shiny, because that again will sort of flash back, particularly with flash. So if you're going to use a powder, don't use a powder that has the word HD, high definition, or a mineral powder that might have silica in it, because silica will also cause flashback with flash photography, and you'll get white spots coming up in the photographs that you think, where did that come from? Ours doesn't. It's lovely. It just creates a flat. It gets rid of shine, but it won't cause flashback at all. Lips and how to keep your lipstick on for a special occasion. The lip primer that Tricia showed us how to use last week, essential. And you can do this little lip trick that I think I might have mentioned before. You put one layer of lipstick on using a lip brush, and then take a split tissue. So this is the finest layer of tissue, blot, and actually powder a little bit. There's my powder through the tissue. Makeup here. So I'm actually putting a little bit of powder through the tissue, a little bit directly on, and then I put my second layer of lipstick on, which I can't find at the moment. Here it is. So if you're going to try and make it look really good, I would recommend you do use a lip brush. Even if you're not normally a lip brush kind of lady, it really makes a difference. And you're just starting at the center, and I'm doing this much quicker than I would normally. The ladies ask about lip liner, and for a special occasion, you might want to use a lip liner. You shouldn't need to, but if you do, make sure you use your lip liner, but then fill it in all over, so you don't ever get left with a line of lip liner. But if you use the lip prime, it should stay on really well. If you find that you get lipstick on your teeth, depending on the shape of your teeth, after you've applied your lipstick, take your little finger, it's a weird thing to do, I'm doing here on Zoom, then stick it into your mouth and pull it out again. And what will go on your teeth will go on your finger. I have that problem with my shaped teeth, so that's what I have to do so that I don't get lipstick on my teeth. There's nothing worse than lipstick on your teeth. Make sure that if you're coming on Zoom or you're going to have your photograph taken, just double check you haven't got lipstick on your teeth. The other thing you can do is use a little bit of gloss, either the clear gloss, just to create a bit of shape and shine on your lips, really nice in photographs, or I quite like to use, so I love, as you know, Cinnamon Kiss, which is a slightly lighter colour, it's a coloured gloss, and I put it in a sort of a circle, so just on in the top and the bottom. So if you can see, rather than putting it all over, again, that's created a little bit of light in the centre, bringing forward, so that in photographs, it's a little bit more interesting than a completely flat. Flat matte is fine. And if that's what you normally wear, that's lovely too. But if you want that bit of gloss and glamour, then that's a way of doing it. Ladies ask me, should they use things like lip coat? You can see I have got good old lip coat that I've had and used for years and years and years. If you're going to use lip coat, I wouldn't use it every day because it is a little bit drying, but for a special occasion, it can keep your lipstick on all day. What you shouldn't do, if you ever use lip coat, don't put it on. You have to let it dry, put it on, It stings a little bit. I'm sure it's probably not very good for your lips, but a little bit occasionally. Put it on and don't move your lips or talk for 3 minutes, because otherwise you'll find it sort of starts to flake a little bit until it's dried. So that's the top tip with lip coat. Final thing, if you want to really keep your makeup on, some makeup artists use setting spray. This is obviously not for Zoom, this is for a special occasion. And there are loads of setting sprays on the market. One that I love is Model in a Bottle. There's one by Urban Decay, which is a really nice one. There's MAC do a really nice setting spray. Don't just try this on the day of your special occasion. If you're going to try something like this, test it out before, just to make sure that you haven't got any allergies to it, or it doesn't, that you like it. And with a setting spray, I won't do it now. I thought I might be able to do this, but I'm not going to sit here for 20 seconds. You hold it about, it tells you usually how far, about an arm's length away. Close your eyes when you've completely finished your makeup and just spray, and then literally keep your eyes closed for about 20 seconds until it's dried before opening, and that should keep your makeup in place if you really need to. Just for a long day and a special occasion, I might think that was a good thing to do. But I hope that that's given you a few hints and tips on the makeup side of things. I'll hand back to Tricia.
Thank you very much indeed, Sally. That was brilliant and extremely comprehensive. It's some of you watching that might have thought, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I would lose the will to live. I could not be bothered with all of that palaver. And to which I would say, I always say this to people who moan about the time that it takes to put makeup on and to get it right and to look really good, is well, obviously it's priorities and things like that, but just taking a bit of extra care pays dividends. And I always say to people about things like special occasions, especially weddings. When the wedding is over, you've got your memories and the photographs. They're the only two things that remain of this event. Maybe there's a video around as well, but you know what I mean, is that those photographs, especially weddings, actually, they do tend to hang around. I've got quite a few photographs in my in my flat of my daughter's weddings, and they're lovely mementos. But if you can look your absolute optimal best in those photographs, they will last, and you can look at those photographs fondly and think, ooh, I looked actually quite good on that day, thank goodness. And you'll have huge regrets if you look at the photograph and think, oh my god, what was I thinking? So just a few tips about that. Quite a lot of you will see photographs of me. I put them onto Super Troopers every now and again, and they are in various, they're on the website and so on. And these are professional photographs that have been taken for that purpose. They have a very, very direct purpose in mind when they're taken. We have a fantastic photographer called Simon, and the photographer makes an enormous difference to how good you look in photographs, because a good photographer knows exactly how to use light. We don't allow Simon to do airbrushing. I've got a bit of a thing about airbrushing because it's a lie. You airbrushing in the modern context, photoshopping photographs is done routinely. And, I don't know whether you've seen cover photographs of somebody like Mary Berry. Now, Mary Berry is a beautiful woman, not taking anything away from her, but she's a beautiful woman in her 80s, and she's got lots of wrinkles. Naturally, she has lots of wrinkles, but you'll see magazine covers of her where she hasn't got a wrinkle, and you just know it's fake. And she looks odd as well. I mean, photoshopping to that extent makes the person look weird, really, really weird. So if you have really good lighting in a photograph, that can make an enormous difference to how good you look. Anyway, a little bit about lighting in terms of Zoom. I've got a bit of a thing about this. Zoom, and which is where you're appearing a lot, and also if you're taking selfies and things like that. The first thing to say is experiment with the position of the camera to see see what's working. Now, if you've got overhead lights, you're going to get a lot of shadows on your face. So the worst thing that I see this quite a lot is that people will have overhead lights and their nose is in the light and all of this is in the dark. So their noses look enormous. Now, they don't have enormous noses, they just look enormous because of the lighting. So if you've got overhead lights, you're going to have huge problems with those dark and shadow effects on your face. And you might wonder what I'm doing here. So I've obviously given quite a lot of thought to how I'm coming across to you on this Zoom call. There's a lot of reasons for that. I run a makeup company. The whole point about a makeup company, what we're saying with makeup is that you can look better wearing that makeup. So it's kind of a professional requirement that I have, that I look as good as I possibly can in various situations. This is going to be recorded, it's going to go onto YouTube, and it's going to be there a long time. So it's a good idea for me to give this consideration. So how have I lit my stage set here? Because you can think of it as that. If you're on Zoom, you're kind of on a stage. And we all know that when you're on, people in the theatre, they wear special makeup, they have special lighting to look as good as they possibly can. So how have I lit my stage? Well, I've got some washing lights at the back. So I've got a lamp, which is on the floor in that corner over there. So that's kind of does a wash of light over there. And then to my left, I've got quite a bright light, which is a lamp, which is on a table. Now I'm sitting in the aperture. It's not an aperture, the bit that goes in where I've got a window. So I've got a window directly in front of me, but I'm not totally reliant on that light. In fact, I could shut a couple of the shutters and it goes a little bit darker. I'll open them up. But recently I've been on a lot of Zoom calls where it's dark outside. So the 4 o'clock calls that I do, it has been dark. So what I've done is I've equipped myself with some ring lights, and they are behind my computer screen. So if I put the screen down a moment, put it up here. So they're behind my screen and higher than my screen. I prop them up, and I've got 2. And I just put those on, and I can change the quality of those lights. So I can have them as blue light, and I actually change them so that I've got warm light, because that warm light, I've experimented. There are 3 different light settings on these lights. By the way, they're really cheap, these things. You can get them on Amazon. I mean, they're about 10 quid or something like that. They're not expensive things. And the fact that they're ring lights means that, again, you don't get any shadows or anything like that. And you can, as I say, you can change the setting for them. So I've gone to quite a lot of trouble to create the most flattering, I hope you'll agree, flattering light and setting, so that when I'm talking to you, you're not distracted by the fact that, this is happening or that's happening or the other is happening. I have been on a lot of Zoom calls over the last, year or so, because we're nearly a year in lockdown, with people where they have got it really right and they've got it incredibly wrong. And when I say incredibly wrong, it's invariably to do with the lighting, or it's to do with the position of their screen. Now, I've got a particular bugbear. Most of you, I think, have got, or potentially you've got screens that are down on a desk. So you sit and you look down. So I don't think I can demonstrate this because the whole thing is all going to get, well, I'll try. So I'll put this down. Okay, so I'm going to put it down on top of the desk. Now, this immediately changes quite a lot. I mean, not least it's changed the light, but now you can see my ceiling. So instead of seeing anything, behind, where you can sort of see the walls behind me, but you can mostly see the ceiling. In fact, I've just realised I've left one of my ceiling. All my bulbs have gone and my ceiling lights. I need to get somebody to come around and change them because I can't do them. They're halogen lights, but I've left one on. Anyway, so you now see my ceiling. So I'm now looking down, and can you see how I've now got shadows on my face because the lighting's changed. So this side of my face is all lit, and this side of my face is in the dark. And I'm now looking down. So I'm going to bring it back up again. So I've got it. Let me show you what I've got it on. I've got it on a sort of box. Oh, it's nice and stable. So let me put it back onto my box. Now, as soon as I raise it, it just improves it dramatically, because you can see you've got a different view. You're not looking at my ceiling. My face is up, so I'm not looking down. And because I've got the lighting directly onto my face, all those shadows are gone. So immediately it looks better. Now, as I said, when you're on Zoom calls, you may or may not be concerned with you know, to the extent that I am. Maybe I'm just unbelievably vain, but I just think that there's small adjustments that you can make that make a huge difference to how you come across when you're on the screen. So that's Zooming and Zoom calls, and just be aware of the position of your screen, the height of it relative to your you know, your face. Think about your background and your surroundings and the lighting that you've got there, and you can make a big difference with that. When it comes to photography, obviously, if you're having professional photographer, she will always be concerned with and sort out the lighting to be the most flattering for you, and the difference is massive. So for a wedding or something like that, where you've got a professional photographer, hopefully that person will be taking account of the light and will be doing their best with that. If you're taking a selfie, then exactly the same things apply as to what I've just been saying about Zoom calls. So take a photograph, have a look at it, and just ask yourself, is this lighting the best that I can create in terms of light and shadow and hollows and lit areas and all that kind of thing. So you just need to experiment, and I've certainly, over the last, well, probably since I've had Look Fabulous Forever, because I've done a lot of filming of myself, makeup videos, where I've used this. I've got an Apple Mac, and I just use the facility on that allows me to video. But I've always been conscious of the lighting, what's in the background, and making sure that I look the best I possibly can for that. So the answer is to experiment, to care enough to make it look as good as you possibly can. Because actually, if you're in the public arena, and you are, if you're in a Zoom call, then maybe you want to look the very best that you can look. And I absolutely second everything that Sally's just saying with that. Now, that just tiny amounts of slight contouring, nothing dramatic. I think there was a very, very funny thing on Facebook a while ago, and this guy was sitting having dinner with his girlfriend, so she was young, and she literally had brown stripes. Like, there was brown stripe there, all the places that they put this very, very obvious contouring, and then white stripes. So she had brown stripes and white stripes literally all over her face, a bit like like patterns almost. And he was looking at his menu, and he looked up and he went, oh, like this, and she said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "You look dreadful. You look absolutely dreadful. What have you got on your face? All those brown stripes and white stripes." And she took a selfie of herself on her phone and showed him. And in the photograph, she looked amazing, because all the contouring, had created this amazing face. So she said, "But look how I look in the photograph." And he said, "But you're not in a photograph at the moment. You're having dinner with me." And he said and she said to him, "But that doesn't matter. What matters is that I look good in photographs," which I thought was hilarious. It's a sort of satire on modern life, really. Doesn't matter what I look like in real life, I look good in photographs. So that's not what we're saying. That's not what Sally was showing you there. You still need to look good in real life, but with those small enhancements, using highlighter really carefully and in a subtle way, using a little bit of that shading, along your jawline, the way that you position your blusher and all that kind of thing, just can make all the difference. But you won't look scary. People won't come up to you in daylight and go, "Oh, what have you got on your face?" It's not like that. It's much more subtle than that. Anyway, I hope that was helpful to you. I think the thing is to give a little bit of time and trouble to it. Sally reiterated this for, and I will reiterate that for things like special occasions. My experience of being mother of the bride twice was that I was very, very busy. When you're the mother of the bride, you are seen as the support, the support mechanism, if you like, for everybody else. Everybody else is sort of panicking and the emotion is rising. The morning before both my daughters got married, about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. My goodness me, those mornings are hectic and the time passes so quickly. And there's a lot to do and there's a lot to think about, not least keeping other people calm. And the one thing that gets missed is what are you doing to look your best, because you're an important part of this as well. So I made sure that I actually got up early and showered, did my hair, sorted that out, and so that I actually had some time to myself, in order not to be slapping my makeup on at the last minute. So it's about time, and it's also about taking the caring enough that it's important enough for you as well to look good in those photographs that are going to last for the rest of your life and hopefully give you pleasure. So I hope that was useful. We might have some questions. Have we got some questions, Bryony? Let me come to you and ask you.
Yes, we have had a few questions. Sally, a couple of people have asked if you could just repeat the mix that you were suggesting to exfoliate the lips, as I think that's a really top tip that people are.
Yep. 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, and then you get 2 teaspoons of brown sugar and 1 teaspoon of honey, and just mix them all up together and just, as I said, rub it into your lips for about a minute and then just rinse off, and then use a good lip balm after. The other thing you can do actually is to use a soft, dry baby's toothbrush to just exfoliate the skin off your lips, but I quite like to use an exfoliant, natural exfoliant as well.
Lovely. And also a couple of questions, just really wanting to understand, and if you could just repeat the order that everything is used, so serum, moisturizer, primer, foundation, etc. What order would you do all of those face products in?
Okay, so the first thing to do is to use, if you're going to use your serum, you use your serum before your moisturizer. So serum goes on first, then you put your moisturizer on. What I then do is always wait just a little bit before going into the makeup application. So I think a lot of ladies get confused between the primer and the serum. The primer, I think, this is the start of makeup. So after your serum comes your moisturizer, then do your teeth, do your hair, do something else, wait a few minutes. Then comes the primer. So this is your underneath foundation to create that smooth finish. Then if you're using the green or the peach, you would put that on next. If you're not using the green or the peach, what goes on after the primer is your foundation or your light look beauty balm. I then do my concealer after my foundation, because I find the concealer goes on better when it's got something to adhere to, rather than putting the concealer on first. So concealer on next, and then you can start with the colour. As I said, some makeup artists do their eyes before the foundation. I don't. I tend to do the foundation and get my canvas right first and then do the eyes.
Perfect. Jill says that she's got lots of lumps and bumps on her skin. Would foundation help to conceal this?
Difficult to, without actually seeing what the lumps and bumps are. It certainly, it could just smooth everything over, but if they are red or if they are the same color, I think I would need to maybe, if you send a photograph, that might help. Do that separately. But yeah, foundation does genuinely smooth everything over, but I'm not saying put cake it on, but just, you might find actually the light look beauty balm works really well.
Okay, perfect.
I used to have, I think quite a lot of you know, and there are photographs of me, I used to have incredibly bad skin. It was at its worst about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was in absolute despair. I mean, it was kind of the doctor called it acne rosacea, but I had a lot more of the acne than I had the rosacea. Yes, I had redness. I had redness around here. But my skin would come up in lots of big, angry red lumps. And the worst thing was across my face. So I'd have them in, it was T-zone stuff. So it would be here, it would be across here. I'd get a lot on my chin as well. So some mornings I would look at my face and in absolute despair. I'll talk to you a little bit about how I think I've cured it. But the thing that I would then do, I mean, it was, I think the foundation concealer is the absolute godsend in that situation for me. The foundation would immediately unify my skin tone, so that the sort of red patches in between the spots would you know, go away because they're covered with foundation. And then the concealer, and Sally's tip about using the number 5 brush, the little tiny brush, I would just literally dot those areas where I had spots, and I might have, I don't know, 20 spots. I mean, it just horrific. And then just press in with my fingers, and then translucent powder, and the translucent powder would take away any of the shine from the concealer and would just make them kind of disappear. So people often would say to me, you've got wonderful skin. And I think, oh God, you have no idea. You have absolutely no idea, because I was really good at concealing them. And I would say, you know, foundation and concealer used well. And again, you know, get yourself into good light so you can really see what you're doing. Makes a huge difference. How I got over it, and I don't have that problem anymore. In fact, I just wake up in the morning and I just can't believe my skin. I would say it's 75% diet and 25%. We developed a skincare range which really suits my skin, and I know that, you know, that's working really well for me. But beside that, my diet. We're going to talk tomorrow with Leonie about diet and health, and I was eating quite a lot of sugar, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I have a big piece of cake and a cup of tea. That's just what I did. I loved it, and I enjoyed it, and I couldn't see any reason why I couldn't have that. Anyway, I cut out sugar and bread, and the effect has just been fantastic. So I now keep sugar to an absolute minimum, and I never eat bread, and I don't get lumps on my face and bumps and everything. So my skin has been, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years of Look Fabulous Forever skincare, and no sugar and no bread. And it's like, you know, it's like being released from prison almost, because I felt imprisoned by this terrible skin that I had, especially as I run a makeup company, and I was often being photographed. I was often talking to people who were looking minutely at my face, and I feel quite apologetic about the fact that I had this terrible skin. So I hope that helps. Is there anything else, Brianne? We're nearly at the end of the time.
Yeah, we're nearly at the end of the time. Just one more question. I'll combine a few into one. Will highlighter, as you demonstrated, Sally, on your forehead, will it help with the lines on the edge of your mouth and also on the chin as well? And in terms of highlighter on the Cupid's bow, would you put that on before or after your lipstick?
Oh, good questions, good questions. As you saw, I tend to do with the lipstick, I do one layer, then I put it on, then I put my second layer on, so it's not so obvious. You can put it on right at the end, but you don't want to look as though you just had a cappuccino. So you don't want too much light there. I think for chin, sometimes I prefer to use concealer, but for the little marionette lines, you can put a little bit of highlighter, as long as you know, it's really important if you use it that you blend it. You don't want it to just sort of stand there as though you've got lines. You do need to use your finger just to soften it. But yes, it can work really well.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely, Sally, thank you so much. And just a last thing before you go, we've got continuous cover foundation and or beauty balm. If you buy one of those this week, you get a half price concealer. The code for it is FACE, F-A-C-E. So I thought I'd just mention that, because I know some of you really like to avail yourself of our excellent offers. So I do hope you enjoyed that, all of you. And thank you so much for coming along. You know, Sally and I really appreciate that we have an audience for these, which is very appreciative, and get lots of lovely feedback about how much you're enjoying them and so on. Sally has mentioned that we've got various other things in the pipeline. Next week we're going to concentrate on skin, so building on what I was just talking to you about just now, how to have the very best skin that you can possibly have as you get older. And, skin, obviously, the better condition that it's in, then the better your makeup will look. And the better you will look on Zoom, in selfies, and at any weddings that you might be invited to go to, or special occasions that you've got coming up. I've got somebody knocking on my door. I think it's the postman. More flowers.
More flowers, yeah.
Flowers for my unknown Valentine. Anyway, on that note, I hope that started your Monday really well. Join us for our other bright spots during the week. We've got lots and lots of interesting things coming up. And goodbye, everybody. And thanks again for coming. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.